We have with us Dr. Walter Christman, the Chairman and Founding Director of the Global Challenges Forum. We also have with us Dr. Beatrice Brissana, Executive Director at the Global Challenges Forum. We have Mr. John Samuel, Director of GCF India. We would be joining in some time. We would be joined by Mr. Amarjeet Singh Chandiok, Senior Advocate and President of Maadhyam. We have with us here Mr. JP Singh, Senior Advocate and Secretary General at Maadhyam. We also have with us Dr. Sanaya Nariman. She is a GCF member and chairperson of Maadhyam Youth Forum. May I now request Dr. Sanaya Nariman to please introduce the program. Can we have a clap of hands for her, please? Thank you.
Good. I see some more people coming in. That's wonderful. I think I'll speak from the side. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the launch of the Global Challenges Forum India movement. We are launching it today officially because we have started this 5 years ago. Jeet, put up your hands. Charu, where's Charu? Put up your hands. These are all the team members who had the function at the India International Center 5 years ago, 3rd of October, because 2nd October is a public holiday, commensurating Gandhi's 150th birth anniversary. So we started the program 5 years ago in 2018. We started it in 2018 to integrated learning and youth leadership development. So that is the main focus and aim, along with the Global Reliance Consortium, which Walter will speak more about. 5 years ago, at the IIC, after having the conference, we've had several other GCF programs. We've had a very, very interesting, that was the conference we had, where the Delhi Proclamation was the outcome of the conference. After that, we've had some very, very other interesting programs. Go to the next slide. Peer mediation, which is bringing mediation down. Why are we talking about mediation? Because when you talk about anything in the world which is zero poverty, zero hunger, quality education, health for all, gender equality, you cannot talk about anything, you cannot develop anything unless you have peace and justice. And you cannot have peace unless you have mediation in a very, very large and big way, in small groups, larger groups, and the largest nation groups. So mediation is one of the central things you will need for any true development to take place. Peer mediation, JP sir will speak much more about. The other GCF programs that we've had, which Jeet and Charu have helped us with, and in fact manage those programs, are FOMO, fear of missing out, for the young, because that is something the children who live on the virtual world feel very scared about. I'm not part of that group. I'm not part of this group. I'm not doing this. Whereas in truth, they need to develop their self-esteem, they need to develop their self-confidence. And that is what we were aiming for with this one-year program. We got kids to give us their story, we Zoomed with them, we had a lot of conferences, Zoom calls with them, and then had an all India session from 8 cities across India. Go to the next slide. To fulfill the Delhi Proclamation promise, to fulfill the promise, we had the next summit on the 1st of October, 2nd of October, Gandhi's birthday is always a public holiday. So the 1st of October, 21, we had a very, very interesting youth leadership program, hunger to health, education to employment. You cannot have any development unless you have good health, and you cannot have any health if you have less food. You cannot have, there is no purpose in education unless there's going to be meaningful work. So we are talking of quality education to meaningful work. Part of the SDGs which the GCF wants to have fulfilled worldwide. These are UN goals, but they belong to the world. They don't belong to a little locked up office. They need to grow, to come out of every little corner, every little slum in a city, every little village. It needs to develop and become level there. Go to the next.
Nature calls. Introduce Beatrice first, and then I'll follow, and I'll be back.
Sure, come fast. Sure. Dr. Walter is not speaking next. I just want to finish off very, very briefly. Why are GCF and Maadhyam today joining hands? We're joining hands because, like the title of today's evening says, you can have no peace, you can have no gender justice, you can have no development unless you have mediation and unless you have talking with each other. So we are hoping that with the launch of the GCF and more peer mediation programs for the young in both schools and colleges, we hope that the young will join us with the programs that are going to come out of today's session. We are going to later on in the day introduce 2 new sessions to you. Please welcome Chandyok sir. Chandyok sir, for all those who are seeing him the first time, is the founder mover of Maadhyam. They do a lot of work. Peer mediation is just one small little tiny fraction. They do a lot of other work. I'll hand over the mic to Beatrice. Thank you.
Let me introduce Dr. Beatrice Brisana. She's a PhD in nuclear physics. She's a science writer and a social business entrepreneur. She also holds an expertise in complex humanitarian crises. She also holds an expertise in mediation, technology, and knowledge management. With this, may I now call upon Dr. Beatrice Brisana.
Hello. So I'm very happy to be here, and good afternoon to everybody. The first things I want to do before introducing myself is really to thank you all guys for inviting me here. It's a wonderful experience. It's my first day, actually my first week in India. And I just had a wonderful, amazing and virtual experience taking for the first time your yellow, green, auto taxi. And I think I suddenly lost my speech, but now I will recover. But you know, what I liked in this experience is the fact that there is such a life here. I mean, such a wonderful passion, and people are all interconnecting. And I think this is why, actually, this is probably the land of mediation, because here people, they really understand how to communicate beyond words, beyond, language, speaking with the mouth. They speak with the body language, and at the end is the best way to really understand each other, right? So, I will speak about myself, sharing with you my experience, actually how sort of I connected all the things I did until now, and before introducing the Global Challenges Forum Foundation, which will be Dr. Christman to give you more details about that. So I start my journey studying physics basically because I wanted to understand nature. So my first idea was like, I have some question, and this question as a human being, I don't know how to answer to them. So I started to study very deeply, and I sort of trapped myself in a very mental, theoretical physics, mathematics, which was wonderful. But after a while, I was like, okay, this is answering to some question, but I missed the point with the connection on the daily life. And I started to see the problem of communication, for example, between scientists and general public. Why they have this problem? Why they had this problem? I was in Italy at that time. Because basically they do not speak the same language. Basically, they do not know how to mediate, how to find the language of mediation to arrive to a common point, to a common ground, to communicate. And at the end of this, they will understand that the needs of all human beings, scientists or not, are exactly the same. So that's why I decided to become a science journalist, because I thought maybe if I became a communicator, I can try to approach these two different worlds. And still, at that moment, I had understood the importance of being together and united, but I couldn't still grasp the idea of really doing something for people, really impacting society. And I started to understand that one of the connecting word beyond mediation is also bridging. So I started to bridge also the scientific world, the general public, and the industrial world. And this is what we call technology transfer. So basically, why we do science? We do science to answer to general questions, but then we enlarge the world of knowledge. But to transfer this knowledge into something that concretely can modify the world to responding to our needs, we need technology. So the technology transfer is basically the application of science discoveries into reality. And then you can create bridge even between different domains. So you can discover something in physics whose application can be in medical aspects, for example. So this is also the transfer of technologies into the industrial world, but also the transfer of knowledge, which is also a very important mediation process, because knowledge at the end is very important, but as you know, every domain has a specific knowledge. So again, to bring together all this knowledge, we need a mediation language. And this is starting to open up more, again, my brain, and also my desire to see something impacting in reality and doing something for improving daily life, human life. So I started to do this kind of technology application in the European world, in Europe, beyond Europe, but not so much. And then one day I understood that I really wanted to study a little bit more, understand a bit more mediation and conflict resolution. So this is why 7 years ago, or something like this, I decided to go to the Middle East, in Palestine and Israel. And I found myself in an incredibly, how can I say, incredibly deep-rooted experience where I really experienced with my own eyes and my own life that even enemies, at the end, they can communicate. And how do they do that? Through mediation, through a mediator. So I still remember one of experience in these 9 days was a very full immersion conflict resolution course in a desertic area in what they call coexistence area. So I was together with the international Israelis and Palestinians. And there was an exercise of 3 people. One was a Palestinian, one an Israeli guy, and another one an Iraqi woman with Jewish background. And I was watching with other, public, and I was already in an adult age, in which you think, okay, I pass over many of my problems. I'm ready for this, so I will follow and I will just empathize, but with a certain distance. I couldn't. So suddenly, because of the very well skill of the facilitator, the mediator, suddenly all my defense, all my layers, they just broken down, and I was into this exercise, just emotionally participating, not actively because I couldn't, and I was thinking, this facilitator, he will never make it. There is no way that these 3 people can finally understand each other and arrive to a mediation language and listen to each other and talk to each other in a normal, pacific way. Well, I was completely wrong. I'm still emotional in remembering this. After 1 hour of this ability of the facilitator, I literally saw these 3 guys, the 2 guys and the lady, hugging. And after that, they were taking pictures together. And at the point that I had to go to the facilitator to compliment with himself, because I was honest and I said, listen, I have to be honest. I didn't believe it, you could make it. And suddenly I started to cry because it was so magical for me. And there I understood the power of mediation and the importance of really go beyond what we really think of our schema or our preconception, and really understand how to see each other as living beings. And this is why then I wanted to develop a social business, because I thought that in that context, I met young people that they were able to understand their local needs and to develop ideas, and around this idea to develop a startup or project that concretely could produce something. And from that experience, I managed to arrive to Gaza Strip and to launch, with the help of one UN agency, the one that is in charge for Palestinian refugees, to launch a project to become a social enterprise in IT, to give the possibility to the young people to work beyond barrier, because from Gaza they cannot really get out. They can, but it's very, 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 very difficult. So they could manage to have work, to go beyond some very difficult local problem. And this was the moment where I met our youth ambassador, Maj Masharawi, that she's an entrepreneur, an engineer entrepreneur. She was able to create a different startup, very powerful, just to satisfy some local needs, like producing solar panel for the lack of electricity. And she is so good that she managed also to raise funds to convince the awareness, worldwide awareness, being even from Gaza, which is not always the best way, to say that you are from Gaza. And she was able to provide family with no possibility to provide them with this solar panel. And she's also developed, and she's still developing other startups. So this, and also in my experience in Gaza, I really experienced the power of meditation. And when I came back to my country, I decided to continue on this way. And I didn't really know exactly how, and one day I decided to go to the International Day of Negotiation, which is another part of meditation, conflict resolution in the UN. There was this conference, and I don't think, I think all things, they never happen by chance. There is always some meaning behind, and I had the opportunities, thanks to this conference, to meet Dr. Christman, that he shared with me his idea, and the foundation is the founder and the chairman, the Global Challenges Forum Foundation, in line with the Sustainable Development Goal of UN, that also Sanaya mentioned. And I thought, okay, I think this is finally my way, and I finally can put together all these points and connect them. And so basically, and I will say the idea in very simple words, and Dr. Christmas will be more details, give more details than me. I was thinking hardly about Majd and her capacity, her skills. And I was thinking about millions of young people like her around the world, especially in disadvantaged countries. So they manage really to have great ideas, they manage to have great results, but they are fully isolated. And sometimes they really need to be connected and to be in a network, and not only amongst them, but also with the adults that can give like advice and expertise. So the idea of the Global Challenges Forum is to create, has been already for 10 years, and now we are improving and changing things, is to create a sort of matrix. Bear with me the matrix word, but I'm still a mathematician. The matrix, like between youth and adult world, giving them all the power. So the idea is really to empower them in their ideas and to sort of accompany them to develop this idea without really interfering, because they know already what to do. Just sometimes if they need some wisdom or expertise or the money and connection, and to create this network. And that's why then Majd came into my mind, because I thought that she was the best representative to become the youth ambassador. Like a bird calling for action, all the other youth, young people all over the world, like a bird when start to sing, and then all the other birds, they start, oh wow, there is a singing here. So they just come all together and they network. And so then finally we can empower these young people to create new leaders beyond 2030. And actually one of our pilot projects is called 1 Million 2030, 1 million young leaders beyond 2030. And empower them to really become the new leaders beyond 2030. Because I think with our actual leaders, we are not going so far. So we really need, finally, youth to change our world, especially for them. And Majd is the best representative. And because another thing that I think is finally important is that all these young people at the end, to find some realization, they are obliged to go abroad of their country, out of their country, and then they realize something out of their country. But what about we create this network of all these young people, and finally they create and they can bring money to their own country and to make developing their own country, especially the most disadvantaged ones. So this is briefly my experience and how the word meditation was a driving force for me to arrive until here today in India. And I couldn't think that one day I was able to come here, and thank you again. I really appreciate. And finally, I leave the floor to Dr. Walter Christmas, thanks to whom and other people here around was possible to create this miracle. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Beatrice, for that lovely experience that you shared with us about your experience from such sensitive areas and that enriching experience with us, and the power of mediation that you felt there, and also the power of networking that you shared with us, which is so important for all the youngsters here. I'll now request Dr. Walter Christman to share his views on the topic of building global resilience. Dr. Walter Christman has a PhD in international relations from Switzerland and also has a doctorate, honorary doctorate from India. He's a strategic planner and a diplomat and has an experience in over 50 countries. He's also coming up with a book with the same title, Building Global Resilience. So let's hear Dr. Walter Christman.
Thank you very much. It's a great privilege to be back in Delhi. I wanted to acknowledge quite a number of people along the way. One of the people that led us to this moment has passed away, but he's a great friend of ours and an enduring inspiration, Dr. Ken Nanigan, who convened the conference together with, that we were brought together with Sanaya Nariman and John Samuel. His vision of integrated learning brings together that kind of vision that Dr. Bresson mentioned of mediating across boundaries and across knowledge domains. The title of my book, forthcoming, published in the UK, will be first released here in India in the fall, and it's entitled Building Global Resilience, A Call to Action. And it carries forward that spirit of connectedness and coming into what we hope is now the post-COVID age, to harvest the lessons of connectedness between people and how to carry forward in respect to the emerging challenges that we're going to continue to face that may look like COVID but different of the 21st century. So first, the Global Challenges Forum is being launched here in India today, and under the leadership in that instance of Dr. John Samuel and Sanaya Nariman, and through the gracious support, and we thank you, Mr. Chandiok, for convening this event and supporting us. This is an auspicious moment, and I'm approaching 65 years old, so I've had a few auspicious moments in my life, but I'm going to speak to each of you students about one. And so I live in California on the Central Coast between San Francisco and Los Angeles, and beautiful, lovely place, vineyards, wine country, and all of that. And one day I pulled out my phone and I have this email from this girl she's 20 years old. She's in a university in Delhi. And she says, I went on your website and I saw what you're doing, and I talked to another person in Switzerland about what you're doing, and it's just amazing. And can I be an intern? Can I help you? And I'm in California, and I'm going like, sure. No problem. Okay, so basically, no one wants to repress the inspirations of a young person, but honestly, I didn't know what to do. So I threw back to her and I said, hey, I've looked at your bio. You're a leader of an organization. How about you write a strategic plan for the foundation and send it to our executive director in Geneva, a young man who preceded Dr. Bresson. And, just kind of making busy work almost, And so she did, and he sends it to me. And we go, oh my God, it's better than what we have. So then I'm going to end up knowing that I'm going to be coming to India and speaking at the International Center here. I say, how about you write my speech? I have speeches. She probably should have written this one today, but I said, how about you write my speech? And she did, and I looked at it and said, oh my God, it's better than the one I have. So basically we enlisted her under the leadership of Sanaya Nariman, and her name is Sargon Karlalia, a young Punjabi woman. 20 years old, and she was the energy, I think I can confess, the driving force behind that. Now you've heard about the Global Challenges Forum Foundation. It's in Geneva, Switzerland. It's existed for 10 years. It's a small foundation, and essentially we have 3 forums: an integrated learning forum, a sustainable development forum, and a strategic analysis forum. It's really a talk shop. It's not an endowed foundation. We don't grant anybody any money. We kind of beg for money to hold the next event. We have a budget category we call OPM, other people's money. So basically, that's how we've been carrying on for 10 years. But the strategic plan that this young woman from Delhi, 20 years old, copped out to me, said, hey, you can do better. Why don't you invest in youth leadership? Yeah, why not? So basically, we went down that path, and as a consequence, the foundation has reinvented itself. And this year, we're expanding to 10, 12 board members from as many countries. We've launched a new organization that's a membership association called the Global Resilience Consortium to invest in youth leadership in the future. So, if you're here and you're a young person and you just want to flip off an email to California and see what happens, you too can change the world. She's the driver of that. Now, Sanaya and John will swear to the truth of what I'm about to say. So when I got up on the podium as the speaker and Sargon was the master of ceremony, I explained to the whole crowd what I just told you, and then I turned to her and said, and thank you, Madam President, because long after I'm gone, she'll be somebody for sure, but young people can distinguish themselves today for the future. Now, that was an event that basically caused us to rethink thinking, actually. And what we ended up doing is going back to the drawing board and saying, okay, how should we actually do this? So what we decided at the event was we cooked up something that's called the Delhi Proclamation. Now, that'll be in my slides. And this slide here is the 3 principles you can see from our organization, me, Dr. Bresson, and Majd, who was spoken about in Dr. Bresson's remarks. But at the same time, next slide, please. The Delhi Proclamation was sort of how we got our act together to think about the future. Now, in support of the 150th anniversary of the birth of Mahatma Gandhi, which was in the future, we laid out a challenge for ourselves, which was to launch a new initiative that we named 1 million youth leaders for sustainable development beyond 2030. That there's a website on it, and in short, that's 1M 2030. But really the issue is the United Nations, as many of you who follow the Sustainable Development Goals know, that at the turn of the millennium, there were the Millennium Development Goals. That was in 2000 for 15 years. The Millennium Development Goals had 8 goals. They got to 2015 and not all of them were completed, and some of them were even barely started, and they reinvented the United Nations as an agenda of 17 Sustainable Development Goals to 2030, the 17th of which is partnerships. Embedded in those, health, clean water, climate change, and clean environment, etc. The list is quite an integrated list. And at the same time, my question was, that's great, 2030, no kidding. Who's doing it after that? So basically the idea is, because we already know what the challenges of the 21st century look like, and we have, what do we got? 78 more years to figure this out. The folks that brought the problems aren't the ones that are going to be solving it for the next 78 years. You are. And your children are. And your grandchildren are. Okay, so we know what those problems are. They look a lot like the pandemic, by the way. Stuff that's just interconnected societies are increasingly vulnerable to all kind of things, whether they're cyber or viruses of the nature, or cross-border refugees, criminalities, all kinds of crazy things. The big one is climate change. And climate change is going to be a painful accelerator of every other bad thing, if the scientists are to be believed. Some are deniers. I'm a believer, okay? That is a problem, nevertheless, that is going to be faced by your generations and the next. And so if these are the problems of today, then what we need to be able to do is begin that process of going forward under a new banner of hope. And the idea of the Global Resilience Consortium is for 1 million youth leaders for sustainable development over the next 10 years, supported by a Global Resilience University. And what we're looking to do is to create an online, interconnected consortium of universities around the world who basically draw together their strengths in order to support the self-identifying young leaders of the 1M 2030. And when I say leaders, that's what I mean. I don't mean 1 million followers. I don't mean 1 million likes on Facebook. I mean 1 million self-identifying leaders in different parts of the world. So this is a globally distributed activity with approaches in different regions of the world that's shared and replicated. And we'll use the Global Resilience University as a virtual university, networking and sharing best practices across the planet. Now, we achieved our goal of launching 1M 2030 prior, because we did it on the 149th of Mahatma Gandhi's birth, and we said by the 150th we want to get this underway, and we did. We launched in Geneva, in the United Nations headquarters in the Palais, the 1M 2030 program, and brought together youth from all around the world to participate in kicking off and showcasing entrepreneurial activities that they're involved in. This is well spoken to by Dr. Bresson when she's talking about empowering youth and seeing the youth and the mediation efforts of the entrepreneurs, because there are different kinds of mediating environments. There's mediating knowledge, there's mediating through business issues to bring forth, there's mediating conflict. But the mediation that we're looking at is sustainable development in each of these areas, which are threats and risks, as well as challenges and opportunities. And it requires the same kind of skills that are involved that we're talking about here. Next slide, please. So the Sustainable Development Goals, and this is the list that you can see, basically lays out in a coherent fashion in domains of activity different areas for leadership opportunity to address. I think that many of you will find yourselves in this mix of your interests. But the idea that we are putting in the Global Resilience Consortium and in my book, A Call to Action, is a new model of global partnership, because the United Nations and the member states and the governments, they all have their top-down approaches. What we want to see is bottom-up approaches in which basically communities, cities, impact investors and youth leaders come together in their communities to bring forward initiatives and energy that can basically provide local healing to connect globally, uplinking to those somewhat disconnected global resources, including those of global corporations and corporate social responsibility and the other elements of civil society that may all come together. The important thing in that is building a unity of effort, and communities of practice speak to each of these domains. So quality education, clearly in the educator's domain, but more than that for youth, you're intimately concerned with this, and you have, it seems to me, the future ahead of you to create lifelong learning opportunities and sharing by building communities that are communities of knowledge. And so Dr. Bresson talked quite a bit about mediating boundaries of knowledge and being able to take science to application. I think that the practice of mediation is important, and this is vital, actually, to success in any one of these. But one of the things I'd like to call out, did I hear that we have some representatives of the GCF's arts and what is it? In Sinai Arts and Artisans. Can you raise your hands over there? There we go. Okay, there we go. All right, welcome. Because one of the things that is required here is building a shareable, new global culture. The culture that has created the mess is what Dr. Ken Nanigan talked about, saying that we need integrated learning. Why? Because you have academic disciplines that silo knowledge into walled off bits of understanding, and that knowledge that's curated in those silos don't necessarily integrate cross with others. And then we build whole bureaucracies around those same knowledge silos, and everybody's kind of stovepiped into their bit. So what we're really talking about is rethinking. So I defined resilience as, well, first, the end state of sustainable development. If you actually succeeded sustainable development, what you've got, global resilience. But to get there, you need a new culture. You need a new mind space, a new way of thinking. And that new way of thinking is focused around, among other things, getting rid of antiquated thought processes and organizational routines that impede success, that impede agility, impede the ability to respond. Now, how many of you remember what is Fukushima? Can I raise a hands? Does anybody remember what is Fukushima? Okay, it was a nuclear power plant in Japan that suffered in a tsunami situation and earthquake. It went, I lost, there we go, it had trouble. Well, it caused quite a great disruption, and what happened essentially in that society, it basically started out here and all falls down. Now the question is, what gets back up? Well, the Japanese, a very efficient society, very consensus-oriented, very collaborative, couldn't get back up. And one of the questions was, and I was in the office of the Prime Minister of Japan not long after that, and what they did is put together a study to figure out what happened. Why couldn't we do this? Like, you know, we're smart people, we collaborate, but we're on our back. Well, they dug down and they finally found that, well, part of that problem rooted in the constitutional implementation of the reconstruction of Japan after the Second World War. And our own American General Douglas MacArthur saw to it that they could not reconstitute themselves into a military dictatorship, which is what led Japan into war in the first place. Well, that kind of also got in the way of other things. And so antiquated organizational models that impede agility and flexibility, you got to fix that. And you got to fix that, and fixing it is what I call building resilience. So in that respect, they have an opportunity to focus this attention of new culture, integrated learning, new thinking with the next generation. Because frankly, I have no hope of my generation being able to assimilate this, my book is addressed to millennials. The truth is they're too old. They're already wrapped into bad think, okay? The point is they got to get on with developing new think, and that new think is for the next generation, and that's most of you in the room, to be able to rethink how do we approach these structures in new ways to address them. So basically what we're trying to do is launch a global movement around 1M 2030 and be able to help through partner organizations in a consortium endow projects, young people, to be able to manage projects, gain visibility for their projects, get advice, get funding, get help. And we have a motto for that, and that is, be love, have joy, have courage, be empowered. So basically, we're looking to a vision that is shareable among youth worldwide. And what we're focusing on as a guiding principle is the first article of the United Nations Declaration on Principles on Tolerance. I would have had a slide here, but I forgot it, actually. But the idea of tolerance, you can understand, is terribly important. It's mutual respect for other people's identities and other people's cultures. If you can't get there, you can't cooperate. And to be able to address the challenges of the future, you need to be able to collaborate in a positive way. Next slide, please. So basically what we're in the process of doing, I came here through the Gulf, in a couple of countries in the Middle East, looking to situate a global partnership summit. And the idea of the Global Partnership Youth Summit is to bring together 1,000 youth from different parts around the world to come together to participate in workshops and panels and showcase their good efforts and to create a Global Resilience Youth Innovation Fund to seed fund those initiatives and those efforts and continue to carry it forward. And so with that in mind, we are coming back to Delhi to launch, under the leadership of Dr. John Samuel, the Global Challenges Forum here in India, to take the lead in developing, has already launched the 1M 2030, to partner with institutions for the Global Resilience University, and to establish what amounts to be a global movement in which it's all Sargon's fault, okay? I mean, you know, she just sent out a message and said, hey, can I help? And then when she did, she just inspired everybody else to like change the whole direction of the foundation and do a whole new thing. And so don't believe that you can't be effective. Don't believe that if you step up. Leaders, by the way, self-identify, and they step forward in faith, in hope, in courage. Be love, have joy, have courage, be empowered. That is the basis of the shall we say, the concept of the idea. But even more than that, I'm an old guy. I'm from the industrial age. Okay, all you young people, you're in the digital age. So let me reach back to Henry Ford, you know, Ford Motor Company, you know. Well, he was a young man once upon a time, and he cooked up an industrial process that simplified making cars. And Henry Ford said something that I'll leave you with. And that is, he said, if you believe you can, or you believe you can't, either way, you'll be right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Walter. It's very interesting the way you explained how the youth can change the world. Our next speaker today is Mr. John Samuel. Mr. John Samuel is the director of GCF India. He is also the former Postmaster General, Government of India, and former consultant at the United Nations. May I now request Mr. John Samuel to please say a few words.
Dr. Walter Christman, who is the chairman of the Global Challenges Forum, Dr. Beatrice Bersana, the CEO of Global Challenges Forum, Dr. Sanaya Nariman, the Vice Chairman of Global Challenges Forum India, Mr. Amarjit Singh Chandiok, representing Maadhyam, and Mr. JP Singh, leaders from Maadhyam, leaders from GCF, ladies and gentlemen. 3rd October 2018, a small beginning was made when we met at the India International Center. And today, we have that GCF inauguration in association with the Maadhyam in a larger level. I'd like to appreciate the leaders who are associated with the GCF India, and especially I find Charu here, Peace Jeet here, and many others who have been associated with this. Today, as we talk about the Global Challenges Forum as to what we can do in India, that's the whole thing. You're all aware about the Global Sustainable Development, SDG goals. 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, when the United Nations talked about it, they said, transforming our world. How can we transform our world? And they identified 17 areas. And the Global Challenges Forum, one of the main responsibilities will be how we can engage the youth. Dr. Walter Christman was telling about how we want to really involve the youth and engage the youth in India India is more than 50% of Indian population is actually youth. That's a very, very interesting thing. Very, very dynamic people, very inspiring youngsters are here in India. How can we involve this 50% of Indian population in transforming our world? Transforming first starts with India. I think it was in 1947, on 14th August 1947, at 11 p.m. in the Constituent Assembly. In fact, I'm glad that today we are meeting at the Constitution Club. The Constituent Assembly, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who was the chairman of the Constituent Assembly, he makes these remarkable words. He says, "To all we give the assurance that it will be our endeavor to end poverty and squalor and its companions, hunger and diseases, to abolish distinction and exploitation, and to ensure decent conditions of living." 1947. Today, many years have passed. We are celebrating the 75 years of India's independence. How can we transform our world? How can we transform India through these 17 sustainable development goals, and how we can involve and engage the young people of India? Today we have this special conference at this historic and majestic conference hall in association with Maadhyam. I would like to definitely appreciate Maadhyam and its team leaders for associating themselves with the Global Challenges Forum. I know Maadhyam has been doing a tremendous job. We have done quite a few programs in association with Maadhyam, sir. We want to thank all of you for associating with the Global Challenges Forum. Let's give a very big hand to them. And tomorrow we are going to have a similar conference, but a larger conference in terms of the United Nations and Sustainable Development Goals at the SRM University in Sonipat, where the SRM University students will be gathering together along with Dr. Walter Christman as well as Beatrice will also be there. There we are going to address the university students as to how they can get involved. It's a great opportunity as to how we can really engage the people together. Let's go ahead further. So these sustainable development goals of 6. One of the things that we really want to do is, through the Global Challenges Forum, is building leaders who build the nations. That's the whole aspect of it. The young boys and girls who are sitting here today, our role is basically to build the leaders, not just for your own sake. There are many leaders of level 1 who will be only interested in their own personal development. I'm talking about the level 5 leaders who will build others, who will build institutions, who will build nation. That's the kind of leaders we want to develop. That's the primary role of this Global Challenges Forum. Let's go further. So we want our primary role in the Global Challenges Forum will be how we can build the young leaders, and that too we talked about 1 million leaders, how we can build them so that we can build India in a larger level. Shall we move on to the next slide? So how do we build the future? Go further, sir. How do we build the future? It was the famous business person as well as a famous author. He says, how do you really build the future? Can we just go ahead to the next one? The best way to predict the future, or the best way to build the future, is to create it. Peter Drucker's management books you would have read quite a lot. He says, the best way to build the future for India, the best way to build the future for the whole world is you and I, we should start creating it. We should put the building blocks. I think today we begin that building block in you. That's the reason we have all gathered here. The August personalities are sitting here to talk to you on these areas. We'll go further. So we want to create a future for India. We want to create a future for the whole world as to how we can involve ourselves, as how we can transform the world with those 17 sustainable development goals, especially by involving the young people. Yep. Can we go ahead to the next one? The 3 focus areas that we'll be doing, very easy to remember, 3 P's. Peace, progress, prosperity. Can we bring peace in our communities? Can we bring peace in our society? Can we bring in our nation? Can we bring in the nations together? So the peace, progress, and prosperity. Now, this is possible only when we are able to work together. It was Edmund Burke, a famous philosopher as well as a famous leader from UK. He says, all that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men and women like you and me do nothing. If we stand on the sidelines and we say, oh, somebody is there, political leader, they will do it. It's not my role. But if we say that we will get involved in terms of bringing peace, in terms of bringing progress to this nation, in terms of bringing prosperity to this nation. Even after 75 years of independence, we have a lot of challenges. We have read the last year's report of the Niti Aayog, which was submitted to the United Nations. It says, in one of our states, not in all the states, but this one state they are talking about, in a place called Chhattisgarh, 39.4%. This is the report of the Niti Aayog. 39.4% of the people live below poverty line. What a shame. 39.4. And what is poverty line? 32 rupees per person per day in a village and 47 rupees per person per day in a city. I want the young people to come up, rise up. I want you to become civil servants. Get into IAS. Get into IFS. Get into some of the governance areas and transform this country. I would like to give that kind of challenge so that we can bring this peace, we can bring the progress, we can bring the prosperity. For that, we all need to get involved. I would like the young people to come up, be involved in different areas of governance in the country. Don't say, oh, that man has not done well, or this chief minister has not done well, or this district collector has not done well. I would encourage you to take up this challenge. When I was a young person like you, that's a challenge that I was given by my principal in my college. I said, yes, let me take up. And that's how today I stand before you. Now, if you want to bring peace, progress, and prosperity, what we require is, number one is your involvement, the youth involvement and youth empowerment. The second is, I would say, what we require is partnership together. I think that's the reason GCF has been partnering with Maadhyam. When we work together in partnership, it becomes a win-win situation. We can achieve many more dynamic things when we work together in partnership. I'll just go ahead with the next one. So we talked about 3 areas of peace, progress, and prosperity. This is the primary focus area as the GCF India will really focus upon, where we will involve many organizations, many government bodies, UN bodies, universities, think tanks, youth, together as we want to achieve this 1 million young leaders coming together, transforming India and transforming the world. Can we go ahead to the next slide, sir? Yes, very, very inspiring task, building 1 million youth leader by 2030. It begins with youth. We have already started 4 years back. We have enlisted quite a few people. We have been organizing many programs. And at the end of this program, we would like you to enlist yourself as one among those youth leaders whom we would like to empower, we would like you to build as great leaders. That's the reason we are here. It's not just giving a talk alone. We want to build you as leaders. We want to give you different opportunities. We want you to be involved in nation building. Let's go ahead one more. So we want to really be involved in the task of transforming the nation and transforming the world. The transformation begins with the youth. The transformation begins with you who are sitting here. When you and I are transformed, and then there is a beautiful structure given by the United Nations in terms of those 17 sustainable development goals. What is the first sustainable development goal which was given? First one? No poverty, yes. Second one is zero hunger. These are all very much relevant today in the Indian context. And I'm glad Dr. Walter Christman has come here. He has been really challenging us in terms of as to how the whole nation can be involved in terms of this transformation. And along with him, Beatrice, the CEO, is also here just to challenge us. I'd like to give a quote of Dr. Abdul Kalam, with whom I was much associated. As when he was working as the President of India, I had many opportunities to go and spend time with him. He was one of the person who was mentoring me. In fact, he used to mentor many senior civil servants. He would always say, John, I want you to dream big dreams for India. I want you to do larger things so that our country becomes a developed nation very soon. Then he used to say, the dream that I am talking about, when I say dream big, the dream that I am talking about is not the dream that you would see in your sleep, but it is the dream which will not allow you to sleep. The passion of transforming our nation, transforming our world. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great joy for me to share with you as to what we can do together in terms of peace, prosperity, progress. Let me just put before you this one: what kind of nation that you want to have. What kind of nation you want to have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. John Samuel, for emphasizing on how important it is for the youth to be empowered to develop a better world for everyone. And I would say on behalf of all that the youth are ready to be transformed, empowered. They probably need the right guidance, the right motivation, and the right push. And they're ready to do all of that. May I now request our next speaker, Mr. J.P. Singh, Senior Advocate and Senior Trainer, and the Secretary General of Maadhyam, International Council for Conflict Resolution, of Mediation movement in India, a very senior trainer and a leader of the bar. And he's also been a trainer in our peer programs and our Maadhyam Youth Forum. I would request him to share some of his thoughts and views with us.
Thank you, Amita. Dr. Christman, Dr. Beatrice, right? Mr. John Samuel, Mr. Amarjit Singh Chandiok, my senior, and Dr. Mrs. Sanaya Nariman. 1 million youth leaders. That's the mission. Right? And let me tell you how Maadhyam can contribute towards making you one of the leaders, what is being talked about. See, if you see the goals of GCF Foundation and Maadhyam International are quite similar. That's why they have come closer to collaborate with the objective of initiating this lecture series to empower and build young leaders and to develop strong institutions promoting sustainable development, peace and justice.
both the goals, I mean, these goals are common for both the organizations. Now, they say peace prevails when conflict is resolved. Now, how do you resolve conflict? Conflict is a part of life. We can't do without conflict. But unfortunately, most of us think conflict is negative, don't we? We don't want to be in a conflict situation. But take it differently. Conflict is the time for you to learn and grow. If you go through a conflict situation, you become wiser. You become a better human being. But the question is how to deal with conflicts. One of the principles how you deal with conflicts is by negotiating. See, it was told to you mediation is, the simplest definition of mediation is, it is assisted negotiation. We negotiate every day. Where should we go for lunch? Indian? Chinese? Thai? What movie should we see? Indian? English? Or Hindi with Indian, English subtitles? Solves the conflict. We deal with these situations, but unfortunately we are not taught how to negotiate. Negotiation, the simplest definition is to and fro communication with the desire to achieve a goal. Goal can be to go for a movie, go out for a party, buy a shoe, anything. We negotiate it every day within the family. Now, but unfortunately, we mostly deal with parties who get rooted into positions, and that's why conflicts do not get resolved. I'll give you a very simple example. A mother comes home and fights two daughters fighting. There is one orange at home. Both the daughters want the orange. So an ordinary mother would divide it half-half, give it to both the daughters. Both the daughters are not happy. They want the full orange. So mother who's apt or good at negotiation asks one daughter, "Beta, why do you want this orange?" And she says, "I want the pulp because I want to have the juice." So she goes to the other daughter and asks, "Beta, why do you want the orange?" And she says, "I want the skin because I want to make a face pack." And both the daughters' interests are resolved. Question is, we have to start asking why. Unfortunately, since we don't know how to deal with conflict, we become avoiders. When your friend is angry, what do? Let her be. She'll be fine. I'll talk to her tomorrow. But you don't realize, by tomorrow, when you talk to her, there will be 5 different things she will tell you that you did in past, where you never talked to her and resolved those conflicts. Start talking, start asking whys. Why are you upset? Then only you will come to the issue of the real interest. So now, I said to and fro, communication. What is communication about? Hearing? Is it about talking? Communication, 45% of information in communication is exchanged through listening. And are we taught how to listen? We don't. We hear to reply. We don't listen. And this is beautifully explained through another example. I'll give it to you. 2 friends are walking in a park. So one friend tells the other one, "I don't know what to do with my son. I just don't understand him. I don't understand him. He just doesn't listen to me." Did you find this jarring? The other friend says, "I thought to understand someone, you need to listen to them." Unfortunately, we don't. And therefore, these are little, skills that we talk about when we do this mediation, workshops, where we train the youngsters. We've gone now to schools. We've started peer mediation. The pilot projects have started in India School at Sadiq Nagar and Modern School at Barakhamba Road. We've gone to law colleges. We've got law professors through the aegis of ILI. Those trainings have been organized. So if we want to reach this figure of 1 million, we need to learn these skills. We need to imbibe those skills, and those skills are available to you in case if you join one of our workshops. Unfortunately, the problem with listening is we have got into a wireless mode. Today our conversation, our communication is through chats. And most of the times, we get disconnected and connected as the wireless gets connected and disconnected. And this is how, if I am not wrong, most of you, when you sit to watch a TV program, you're skipping channels. There is the attention span, is going down and down and down. And what we are actually missing, the pandemic has taught us, is this physical meeting that we are having today. And probably like it is for us to relive those moments again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. J.P. Singh, Senior Advocates, for these wonderful examples about negotiations and mediations. And thank you for telling us about these mediation workshops which are about to come through Maadhyam. And we really hope, in fact, all of us sitting here, I'm sure would love to participate in this workshop. May I now call upon Mr. Sparsh Gupta. He is the co-founder of Art and Artisans. And what is this Art and Artisans? It is an assembly of artists who provide a platform for emerging artists and support the spread of art knowledge in India in association with GCF, the Global Challenges Forum. I'll now hand over to Mr. Sparsh Gupta.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So today I'm here representing Art and Artisans India, and we are a collective of artists who are working towards a common goal. That is to uplift the artists and the artisans community of India and to spread the knowledge of art. Art, according to us, is not something meant only for the selected few. It's something which should be there for the whole society, as it entails an educational and cultural value and plays an important role in shaping up the intellects of our citizens. We formed this collective 2 years back during the pandemic year 2020. So we have been working and maintaining our presence all digitally. And now I would like you to go through the different avenues through which we have been working towards the goals. So can we have the, yeah, perfect. So we have been hosting online art workshops and talks and webinars which have been delving in different subject matters like materiality in photography, women's identity, portrait making workshops. We have had webinars on art appreciation too, because we really want to instill a sense of art awareness in our viewers. So through these talks and workshops, we are providing educational resources for the professionals, professional creators, and we are also paving a path for the common people to enter the world of art. Then another series of interviews that we have with artists, we call that In Conversation With, because the format of those interviews are as if we are just having a conversation with those artists. Now, here what we are doing is that it's another channel to help not only the pre-existing artists and artisans of India, but also the potential creatives who are probably you guys sitting here who have not had an experience to art but would want to get into art. So here, through these In Conversation With series, we are providing a chance to get an intimate and an in-depth insight into the life of a creator we have creators from all over the globe. So we have had artists from UK, Netherlands, Japan, Korea, and India, of course. So all of these artists, all of these educational resources that we have been compiling till now are all available on our YouTube channels and also on a website. Now, yeah, thank you. Now, another avenue which we have is open calls. What we are providing here is basically a platform for talented creators to come and showcase their artworks. So in open calls, under open calls, we have been working through art competitions and collaborations as such of making a Zine, digital Zine together and publishing it on a website. So these are the tools which are helping us pool the talented creators present in a society and to acknowledge and promote their artworks, because we really believe it is of core importance to put artworks there and to put artists and artisans there and let them engage with the whole global community that we have at our hand, and all thanks to the digital age that we are all part of now. Then we have a bigger umbrella, which is Art Around. So here we are talking about and propagating the pre-existing arts and crafts of India. And we have also had two recent ventures, which is Artist of the Month and Artisan in Focus. So in Artisan of the Month, we, as the name says, every month we are looking out and selecting an emerging artist from our subcontinent and promoting their works online. And for Artisan in Focus, here we are lending a voice to a marginalized artisan, to give them a chance to put up their artworks, to put up their craft, and on a global scale. So we are working with these two aspects currently. And now we have something very special to commemorate this auspicious event of the launch of GCF India. So Art and Artisans India is proud to launch its global art contest, Open Call 2022. This open call captures the essence of what we stand for, as it is open to creatives from all mediums. So, an artist working in 2D, 3D, or digital, like all formats can be applying for this. And it's open again to all nationalities. And artists can simply just log on to a website and submit the application online. We will have a panel of reputed and distinguished international artists who will be selecting the finalist, whose works we will be publishing online, and they will also be receiving a certificate of artistic excellence from us. Now, finally, I would like to thank Dr. Walter Christman, Chairman, Founding Director of the Global Challenges Forum, and I would even like to thank Ms. Beatrice Bressanen, Executive Director at GCF, and Mr. John Samuels, Director of GCF India, Dr. Sanaya Nariman, Vice President of GCF India, and the whole team of GCF, and not forgetting the whole team behind Maadhyam, Mr. Amarjeet Singh Chandiok, President of Maadhyam, and Mr. J.P. Singh, Secretary General of Maadhyam. Thank you to the whole team for putting up and curating. Absolutely. Thank you so much for letting us be a part of it, and hope we can reach out to the youth and get them into our association and collaborate and have a special venture ahead of us. Thank you so much for your time.
I would like to follow up the shout out here that I gave during my remarks, because I didn't get to elaborate on it. I was talking about the need to develop a new global resilience culture and a youth empowerment. And art is the carrier of culture. It's the interpreter of culture. That's why, so many totalitarian regimes want to commandeer artists in their service and dictate their policies by their symbolic representation of whatever they're doing. What we have here is a bottom-up expression allowing the youth of the world to identify within themselves, within their hearts, what they see, what they need, what they want to be. And art is the carrier of that. So the Global Challenges Forum is very pleased to partner with you to open up the door to a global platform inviting expressions of youth identification around the world. Some of that will be dark, because it's a pretty mean place out there. But youth have a way of showing inspiration and hope. And that's what we want to capture in the expression that I said: be love, have joy, have courage, be empowered. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure.
Thank you, Sparsh, for adding the artistic spike to this field of mediation and this conference. We now have our next speaker, Mr. Amarjit Singh Chandiok. He's a senior advocate, a senior mediator, a senior trainer, former additional Attorney General of India. He's led the mediation movement from the front. And if I could only add in, he's been a true example of how he's empowered the youth here in the true sense by giving his guidance, his wisdom, the opportunities, and the support that is required. As Mr. John Samuel said, that, to build leaders who build further leaders and nations and not build for themselves. So here we have words of wisdom from Mr. Amarjit Singh Chandiok.
Thank you, Amita. I was listening all this while very carefully, and I was wondering, why did I was not born later in this country? So that I could have been a young person today listening to all my eminent speakers and learn how to be a leader of tomorrow. But I think God had something else in mind when He sent people like me to this world, to meet people like Mrs. Nariman, who has led us in creating this new leadership. Let me, on behalf of everybody, thank her profusely for doing this. Welcome to Global Challenges Forum in India. Our vision that we believe in Maadhyam, we believe and we still believe that we always start with a drop of water. We convert it into a river, who then merges into an ocean. And that is what Maadhyam has stood for. And I assure you, while Maadhyam looks at the future generations of this country, with 50% of the population being youngsters, I do not want to leave my elders, because that youngster has to be taught first, how does he respect the elder? And therefore, it is necessary for us to understand that unless the elders of this country feel satisfied, I will not be able to bring a youth leadership in this country. And let me share that with you, sir, today, that India is peculiar and unique in the world. If I take you from Kanyakumari right up to Gulmarg or maybe beyond, you will find diversity of religions, diversity of voice, diversity of clothes, diversity of food, diversity of languages, diversity of culture. And if I, standing here, can take proud to tell you, Maadhyam has been able to create the youth leadership in this country all over, right from Kanyakumari, right down, right up to that. And that is why I think today's collaboration with Global Challenges makes a difference to us to go worldwide now. However, in our small way, we extended our arms. We started in 2006, when a great challenge came to us. Not that I accept even today that I'm not young, but at that time, 2006, the situation was different. A challenge came to us whether we can bring the concept of negotiation, whether we can bring the concept of conflict resolution by doing what? By empowering the parties to decide for themselves. And I'm proud to tell you, sir, that the person right on your extreme left was the person who laid the foundation of the center, and that center got the bricks converted. We started our first, what we say today in Delhi, the stilt area where we have to park ourselves is sitting right in front of you, Sadhna Ranachandran. I don't have the third person with me here today because he's probably broken his arm. He was trying to fiddle with his wife probably and he had to break his arm. But I have the fourth person with me who still holds that position, and here is Veeran Ralli before you. But notwithstanding taking those four names, I must tell you the contribution made by each one of them, whether I start from Sarika, go to Neelam, jump to Pooja, go to Jasbir, go to Amita, is no less in any way. And today, take it from me, I am given this honor to be the president of the Maadhyam, but actually honor lies with all mediators who are part of the mediation family in this country, so that we have been able to bring some conflicts to the first position that we said, peace. I think that's the first thing that I was told today. The first P, we have done it. To achieve the second P, we just finished a competition on negotiation with Pooja leading us there. And we saw how youngsters prepared memorials that I can assure you, even at this age, I would not have been able to do it. The points that they raised for us to consider, and it only reminds me of very eminent Chief Justice who was speaking to us one day and said, time has changed. Today a wife wants to call a husband on the dinner table and says, with a WhatsApp message, please come, dinner is late. So that is the reason why I think Mr. Nariman said we must have a physical meeting. We must bring back our lives to how do we normalize it, how do we take one-to-one to it, and how do we extend and see each other. And it only reminds me of listening what JP just now said. Justice Nariman was on the bench, and this lawyer kept on speaking. So whenever I would stand up, he would interrupt me. Then he went on. His lordship did not interrupt him. Then after he would stop, then the lordship would say, I have been listening to you. Do you think I have permission to ask Mr. Chindyok to speak and I can listen to him? So listening is a concept, not only in relation to empowerment. Listening is also a concept even relevant and important even in adjudicatory process. Because if somebody does not listen to me, what adjudication will come? Therefore, listening is an important aspect in day-to-day life for us. And therefore, we all need to look at it. And I want to start from home. If I have to build that 1 million people in 2013, I'm not targeting myself to anything. I'm targeting myself first. Am I changing myself to the new position? Am I looking at the new world? And I can assure you, I don't look at negativity in this country. In this 75 years, if I look at the history, I've done miracles. The talent that I brought into this country is nowhere available in the world. What you said was poverty in Chhattisgarh was 39%. I had poverty all over the country. I reduced it today, maybe remote areas where we need to work. And we have therefore extended our arm one side on Singapore, where we thought conflict resolution was important. We went right up to United States, up to Pepperdine, and we've now gone together. I also want to place it on record that we are, as a mediating council or a mediating organization, part recognized by BRICS Legal, so that we are now establishing ourselves into Russia, we go down to South Africa, we have gone right up to Brazil to speak about it. In fact, days to come, I'm now speaking at London with respect to how I can bring this conflict resolution in the insolvency proceedings into forefront in the international cross-border otherwise. Therefore, I don't accept with all humility at my command that we are anywhere in less. I in fact say that with emphasis that there is no law firm in the world today who does not have an Indian lawyer. But we have now encarved into us, we have gone to, as JP said, peer mediation, we have gone to universities. All these competitions that we are doing are within the university students only, the law colleges. We are looking at a collaboration with 41 law colleges, I understand, are established between Noida and Greater Noida. So I'm looking at if they can bring a joint front before us so that we can look at that part. We are working towards it. I hope days are not far, then we'll be able to achieve it. I thank you, each one of you, to be here. I thank you, each one of you, to have traveled all the way from here. You have said this, that you were responsible for looking at mediation between two countries. I am looking forward for a day when Putin is going to call up Modi ji and say, please send mediators of Maadhyam. I need to talk now to UK. Thank you very much.
We're looking for our young and, of course, the old to mentor and help. But we're looking for our young to build leadership qualities to change the country you inherit. That, I'm sorry to say, we and our mothers and fathers and grandmothers and grandfathers have left for you to solve. There's no point worshipping the Ganga if it's dirtier than the water leaving your house after you have used the water tank. There's no need and no use saying we are proud of an ancient heritage when air pollution is so bad in the capital city of our country, where we sit. And I'm very proud to say, where is Sardar Patel Vidyalaya? Put up your hands. And the India School, they are doing I know because I am involved with them, they are doing a fantastic project on air pollution. These kids are developing a bioenzyme for their bathrooms. They are tracking travel miles which they travel. They are doing air studies to try and see how, as individual students, they can bring down those levels. We have Miranda House. We have a couple of colleges here too. We have Aurobindo too. We've got, for the schools and for the colleges and for the other young lawyers, we are launching from GCF and we are launching from Maadhyam 2 programs today, because that is why we've called it a lecture series. We have our young registering you there if you are interested in coming and to an introduction to mediation, because we've been talking about it, but we don't really know what it involves. What does it mean? What are its techniques? What are its important points? So we are launching a series on mediation. First, we will introduce the subject, and an introduction to mediation on the 24th of September, 2022. We'll give you the venue. Leave your emails if you're interested in attending that program. 24th of September. Starting today, ending with registration, the second program, the registration will end on the 30th of September. We are talking about social justice for all in India. What do I mean when I say social justice? Is it socially just when crores of people starve? Is it socially just when they live on 60 rupees a day in a city and 40 rupees a day in the village? You go to one little burger place, one pizza joint, and how much do you spend? So we are talking about social justice for all, relating it to the SDG projects. I need you people, we need you people to do a critical study of projects which are helping people with food, education, gender equality, social justice. So the SDG goals, the 17 SDG goals, which you all know quite well. Positive health, quality education, employment, worthwhile employment. So any projects which are dealing with these things, we will register yourselves in groups of 5. When you are studying a project, you can't walk in alone. You will have to work in a group. And when you work in a group, you build communication skills. You develop your own leadership skills. And when you critically evaluate, you start learning to look at and develop your head. So your heart and your head you develop by critically evaluating, and those words are important, projects which are related to the SDG goals around you, to find out, and we'll do Zoom calls with you. Jeet, put up your hand. Charu, put up your hand. Where's Charu? We will do Zoom calls with you because we are all teachers. We are all on an everyday basis critically evaluating what you people learn and study. So we will do Zoom calls with the groups of 5, 10, 15, maybe 30 of you. So you meet each other on Zoom calls to see what you're doing with your evaluation and to help you really learn to look at the project in a very critical, evaluative manner. Because for centuries we've been saying we are planting thousands of trees, but excuse me, out of the 1,000, 10 are growing, right? That is the evaluation we're looking for. So register yourself for the GCF project. 1st or 3rd of October next year, we will have the All India webinar, because we'll put it on our webinar and it will go into the All India list. We normally have people young from all over India, and it's good for you to meet people on the web also. All right, so these are the 2 projects we're opening, and of course, Sparsh has just told you, open art competition, what is it that you have? Open call 2022, anything in art, and you don't need to be an artist. You can be lawyers, you can be school students, you can be college students. Anything you doodle with, anything you make, send into the art and artisan group. They have a very high level of judges judging there. And I'm proud to say they've been doing a lot of work too. So these are the 3 things we'd like you to participate with. That's what you take home. Okay? I have the pleasure and the privilege now of closing by saying very, very, very big thank yous. Starting 5 years ago, I'll start with the GCF team who helped with the IIC conference. We had Jeet is here with them, Charu's there. We've had other GCF and P's conferences where we've had Nidhi as well as Arvinder help. Put your hands up. There was a new word which I was very happy and very proud to learn, which Nidhi put me onto, ecosophy, the philosophy of ecology, environment and you and me, and life with the environment, which you study now in schools and sciences and which should become part of everyday life. I'll thank the GCF team. I will thank my peer mediation team, which we started by planning how to go into schools and how to go into colleges and what are we going to tell the young. These are not lawyers. Lawyers are dangerous people, in fact, I'll tell you that. So these are young students who will go into thousands of different lines. We need to teach them how to mediate, how to negotiate, how to mediate. So we have a booklet which we will work on more and upgrade more. But the peer mediation team, very much, JP sir, Sadhna ma'am, Veena ma'am, the senior most, and lots of other youngsters who came there for endless meetings, came to the Indian school, came to modern school, came to Miranda House, where we've had several sessions. I'm naming these schools, but we've gone there at least 6 to 8 times. Now my heartfelt thanks to the host of today's function, to the very, very generous host of today's function, Senior Advocate Chandyok. We have to give him a very big the really very generous host who didn't quite know what he was doing when he said, go ahead, you're having people coming in from Switzerland, you're having people coming in from the Gaza Strip, from the Palestine, and from all over. Have a big show. And the show went just bigger and multiplied and multiplied. Thank you so, so much, sir. I will thank our GCF director for coming and making this such a success today. Thank you, Walter. Wonderful to have you here. And that was a very inspiring talk you gave. You'll see Walter Kreisman on the Zoom when we have our October 1st or 3rd. We're booking you from now. The next year, All India Zoom webinar. We have Beatrice here with a very complicated surname, which I will not dare to say on a mic. Because I know I've pronounced it in a Western name. But I know the name is wrongly said too. That's right. Thank you, Beatrice. It was wonderful having you here. She was former director of the UN Works Department and the Gaza Strip. She just retired her director post there. Our All India GCF director, John, thank you so much. He's taken a flight in specially early. He had some urgent family matter, but we're delighted that you could make it on time. We were biting our tongues till you told us you'd landed. Thank you. Thank you, JP sir. And I have to thank most of all the two people and three who have made this possible. Amita, thank you. Sumit, without the both of you, none of this, nothing you see on the screen, I am 5 thumbs with that. Nothing you see here because I'm seeing this for the first time. So none of the hall arrangements, none of the 100 messages you've got, none of the posters, the write-ups would have come without them. And to Charu, very much part of GCF, who's helped enormously lot too there. Thank you so much. Where's Charu hiding? She's hiding right behind where she normally does. Thank you. And thank you all for being such a wonderful audience, for taking out time from college, from school, from court. I know there are a lot of very, very busy lawyers here. And from your mediation sessions to be with us. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chandyok sir.